What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. Finally, week one, Start Sit Live is here. We're going to be doing this every Wednesday evening for the rest of the regular season. So we're going to hop right into it. We got a lot to cover today. If you guys do have a question, I'm going to try to get through my program. I'm going to go through all my Start Sit charts for you guys. If you guys are new to the channel, basically what I do on the fantasyfellowship.com, on the homepage, scroll on down here. That's where all the content's going to be. You got your waiver wire, your DraftKings game lines. We'll look at that for starting defenses. I'll input fantasy points allowed. We'll start talking about that next week. And then I'll do player prop bets on Saturday. But we click into week one. And I do want to reference these practice reports along the way. But this is what we're looking at. My start sit charts basically just tell you where I feel comfortable starting these players. So Thursday Night Football on the Lions side, well, let's start with the Chiefs because of the Kelsey thing. The Chiefs line did move to 4.5. They're still favored to win. I think it fell to 52, so I have to update that. But you're still starting Mahomes. I think you're still starting Pacheco as a running back too. If Kelsey plays, you probably just got to play him and just deal with whatever his snap counts are going to be. If not, I think Sky Moore, I think McKinnon, and Kadarius Toney are all flexible players. And even if Kelsey plays, these guys are going to be playing a bunch. And Kelsey's probably not going to be playing a full slate of snaps. So if you need to, Sky Moore, Jerick McKinnon, Kadarius Toney can all be flexed. I'm not super excited about MVS, Clyde Edwards, Rashee Rice, Justin Ross. I think we have to monitor these guys from our bench. But super interested to see what this potentially Travis Kelce-less Chiefs offense looks like. So I'm loving Pacheco, though. I think Pacheco's going to get a lot of run. And don't be surprised if Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets a good amount of stuff his way. But on the Lions side, no Chris Jones is a big one for the Chiefs. I think you're starting Jared Goff as a fringe QB1. He looks great as a QB2 in Superflex leagues. Go ahead and start Jahmyr Gibbs. I think you got to go ahead and get David Montgomery in the lineup. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, no questions on starting him. I have nobody else that I'm going to put in my lineup, though. I'm going to put a nope next to the Lions defense, probably a nope next to the Chiefs defense just without Chris Jones. I think this is going to be a potentially high-scoring game. And then guys to monitor on the bench for the Lions. Josh Reynolds, I expect him to be the wide receiver, too. You got Sam Laporta. You have Marvin Jones and Khalif Raymond. These guys are all DFS showdown kind of options here. But exciting game. I wish Kelsey could have, been able to play and been healthy, but I'm leaning towards him not playing this week. And then probably he's going to be 50-50 for week 2. So if you have Kelsey, make sure you guys do have a backup tight end in there. Let's move into the Sunday early games here. Sports Dog, what's going on, my man? James Cook, Brian Robinson, Montgomery, or Gabe, or Luke Musgrave. I think what I would do is if Watson doesn't practice tomorrow, Sport Dog, that's very concerning. If he gets a limited practice in tomorrow, that means he's likely to play. But if that's Brian Robinson, I want to play Brian Robinson against the Arizona Cardinals, the worst team in the league. I like David Montgomery a lot, but I think in your case here, just go with let's see what David Montgomery looks like with the Lions. I think you have an easy one in your back pocket with Brian Robinson. Otherwise, I would probably rank them as B-Rob, Montgomery, James Cook. Brian Watson says, I like my one-up after watching your drafts. I wish I could have gotten in. Yeah, man, we'll get you. We'll try and get some. We'll try and get you in the league next year. But I appreciate it, man. Superflex is my favorite format as well. But let's talk about the Falcons and the Panthers. Right now, the Panthers. We'll start with the Falcons side because they're projected to win the game by about 3.5 points, a low total of 39.5. So not a lot of touchdowns in this game. I think Desmond Ridder's only a super flex option in QB2 leagues. You're starting Bijan Robinson. I think if you have Drake London, he's your wide receiver 3, or he might be your number 2. He's definitely in your lineups, that's for sure. And then if you did draft Kyle Pitts, I think you have to put him in your lineup, and let's just see how it goes. But I'm getting kind of skirmish on Kyle Pitts. I'm wondering if he's kind of like the third, fourth guy in this offense that we lean on for production. The Falcons defense is startable. They're at home. They're playing a rookie quarterback making his first career start. We're not really in love with the Panthers receiving weapons. And otherwise, Tyler Algier, Matt Collins, these guys are waiver wire guys that we could potentially looking at. Cordell Patterson, Jonnu Smith will watch for their participation. But the Falcons are easy. It's Bijan, London, Pitts, and then maybe Ridder in Superflex format. On the Panthers side, I guess maybe Bryce Young in a super flex league. That's about it. You can start your Miles Sanders as your running back 2 or your flex. And then the only receiver that I'm looking at potentially starting is Adam Thielen. I think he's probably a guy that's on your bench, and I'm not super excited to start him. I'd rather if I had to wait and see what this offense looks like, I'd rather start somebody I think with a little bit more upside. So I like Thielen. He's kind of a high floor play, not a guy I'm super excited to get in my lineups, but probably not going to go with the Panthers defense. Excited to see what Mingo can do. Excited to see how Hayden Hurst looks like, and DJ Chark here. So I'm not wanting to get Panthers in my lineup this week. So start your Falcons, and we'll watch the Panthers and evaluate them next week. We'll get to the Bengals and the Browns in a second. Good evening to Inceptivus. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, man, the Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson matchup is just too good to ignore. We got Ron hanging out with us. He's got to start one of the following and need help. All PPR: Cooks or Sky Moore, Rachaad White or James Cook, Marvin Mims or Jayden Reed, and lastly, Howell or Purdy. I think if Kelsey's out, I'm going to go with Sky Moore. I do like Brandon Cooks, but it's probably going to be Sky Moore if no Kelsey. Rachaad White or James Cook. I'm probably going to lean with James Cook. I'm just more excited about the Bills' offense. They're probably going to score 3 touchdowns. We don't know what Tampa Bay is going to do, and they're both going to be involved in the passing game. So I'm thinking James Cook is the guy. Mims or Jayden Reed, we have to evaluate this one because we know Watson and Dobbs are now dealing with hamstring injuries. So and the other thing too is if Jerry Jeudy was at practice, if he plays, that's going to, take some snaps away from Mims. So that one's tougher. We have to evaluate that one tomorrow and Friday. If you had to ask me right now, I'm going to say Marvin Mims. But man, if one of Watson or Dobbs are out, I'm looking at Jayden Reed. And then Howell or Purdy, I have that same question. My QB2 in a Superflex league, I'm going with Howell against the Cardinals. He's going to rush. He's going to get a touchdown, maybe 2. I'm going with Howell because Purdy plays the Steelers. So this one, so I'm going to get a lot of Christian Watson guys tonight. The Watson ones are hard to, it's Wednesday night. We have to wait for Thursday and Friday practices before we really know what's going on with Watson. So if Watson's able to go on Sunday, I want to play Christian Watson. It does sound like Terry McLaurin's going to play. So Jahan Dotson's not going to be, the only wide receiver for Howell to throw to. He's got a really good matchup, but I think for now, if Watson plays, I'm going to go with Watson. If you're nervous about Watson and maybe getting hurt or something like that, Dotson's a great play. So either way, you got it covered there, Brian. Good evening, Jason. Mike Will or Dotson. I'm going to go with Mike Williams. Jamal or Mostert. If no Kendre Miller for the Saints, I'm going to lean into Jamal Williams. I really like Mostert. We don't know how they're going to operate their backs here, but if you're telling me Alvin Kamara's out and Kendre Miller's out, like Jamal's going to get 20 touches. It's pretty cool. So always appreciate you as well, Ron. But let's go over the Bengals and the Browns, guys. The Bengals favored to win by 2.5, 47.5 total projected in this one. The Bengals are simple. You're starting Joe Burrow if you drafted Joe Burrow. You're starting Mixon. You're starting Chase. You're starting Higgins. Like there shouldn't be any start-sit questions on the Bengals side. It's pretty obvious. I am open to starting the Bengals defense. They are stingier than people realize. And then I think the real question marks come with Tyler Boyd and Irv Smith. I mean, if you waited on receiver and you needed to flex Tyler Boyd, it's fine, but I'd rather see what he does on my bench. Like I'd rather start Marvin Mims or Jayden Reed over Tyler Boyd with some of the things that we discussed earlier. And then Irv Smith, probably not going to start him. Like if you have Kelsey and you needed to play Irv Smith, like I get it. But otherwise, I'm not really looking to start Irv Smith. And then we have to monitor this RB2 job behind Joe Mixon. I want to know who's catching passes, who's on third downs, who's getting short yardage, stuff like that. So Evans and Travion Williams are on my waiver wire watch. Now, looking at the Browns, we are hoping that it's better this year. Deshaun Watson, I think if you drafted Watson, you're probably starting him. Nick Chubb, you're obviously starting Nick Chubb. You're starting Amari Cooper. I think if you waited for a tight end and got David Njoku, you're probably going to end up starting him as well. The real question comes with Elijah Moore. And actually, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones could be a flex as well. I actually think DPJ is going to be on the field more in 2 wide receiver sets. So between Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones, I don't want to start these guys because I want to see what it looks like first. If you had to, I guess I would play Elijah Moore in a PPR league. And if I was in a half PPR league, I would probably lean Donovan Peoples-Jones because DPJ can still make a big play or two and end up with like 50 or 60 yards. So we'll monitor those guys. Not super excited to get them in the lineups this week. And then we'll monitor Tillman, Jerome Ford, and Pierre Strong, just some of the backups here. Backup receiver for the Browns and Jerome Ford, Pierre Strong. We'll see if those guys can do anything as the RB2. We'll move on to the Jags and the Colts. Let's see what we got here. Justin's in the chat. Hope you're doing well, man. Jason asks, Dobbins or Montgomery half PPR? Dude, I'm going – don't get me wrong. I love my David Montgomery, but J.K. Dobbins at home, 10-point favorites against the Houston Texans. Like, sign me up. Like, J.K. Dobbins might be the number one overall running back this weekend, guys. Like I could easily see 120 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns and like 3 or 4 catches or something like that. I think this, if you drafted Dobbins, you have to play him this week. He's going to help you get off to a hot start. So Dobbins, no question for me. Gibby or Johnson? Who's Johnson? Which John? Is that Deontay Johnson? I think you probably got to go with, if it is Deontay Johnson, I think you're starting Jahmyr Gibbs, or unless that's Gibson. Is Gibby Gibson? Justin, need some clarity, Justin. Gibbs, ETN, Mike Thomas, Walker need 2. I'm going Gibbs and ETN, and we want to see what Michael Thomas and Walker look like for sure. So Gibbs and ETN, go with the fresh legs. Let's talk about the Jags. Jags at the Colts. Jags 5-point favorites, 45 total implied here. You got Trevor Lawrence. If you drafted Trevor Lawrence, you're starting Trevor Lawrence. If you drafted ETN, I think, Justin, you got to play ETN as your running back too. It's a really good spot. I think the Jags are going to control this game from the start and be able to kind of play their game. You're starting Calvin Ridley. I think Christian Kirk's more of a wide receiver 3 flex. Like I can see questions about Christian Kirk coming up. I think I want to lean into that. Have you guys seen the Indianapolis Colts secondary? Go look into that because it's not great. I believe the Colts are going to be what we call a funnel defense, where teams are just going to pass on the Colts, man. They're going to pass, they're going to run, but their cornerbacks are not good, and they have one decent safety. But try and get Christian Kirk in the lineup. I'm okay with Evan Ingram. You probably draft him as your tight end 1. And then the real question is, like, in a deeper league, maybe you want to start Zay Jones. He's a wide receiver 3 flex. I think the Jags could eat in this one, so it makes sense. Go ahead and fire up that Jags defense. And then the guy to watch that I'm probably most excited to see, besides Calvin Ridley here, is Tank Bigsby. How involved is he? If he's still on your waiver wire, go pick him up, stash him. We're not starting him, but we do want to see what he looks like in this game. And essentially, like if Bigsby does well in this game, we could maybe say that, hey, like when the Jags are favored to win by a decent amount of points, we could be looking at Tank Bigsby as a starter. On the Colts side, I think Richardson's just a QB2 in Superflex leagues. I think if you play in a 1 QB league, you want to tuck him away on your bench. Hopefully you have another guy that you could start, like a Jared Goff or Daniel Jones or something. But definitely Superflex leagues, we're going to want to, this entire first game for the Colts is a watch and learn for us. Like Michael Pittman's like really the only guy that I'm comfortable leaving in my lineup as a wide receiver 3 flex. Otherwise, we're not doing the defense. Evan Hall, Deion Jackson, do not mess with these guys. We need to see what the backfield split's going to look like. Zach Moss practiced today. He might be out there week 1, and that would really mess this thing up and make it a 3-headed committee. And then we'll monitor Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. And then I did make a note that says, keep an eye on Colts tight end Kylan Granson. Everybody wanted Jelani Woods to be the guy, but he's on IR. So don't sleep on this tight end here. He's really athletic, pretty good security valve for Anthony Richardson. Before I get to the Bucs and the Vikings, let's get caught up here. Brian says, should I have another tight end on bench like Everett if I have Ingram? I would need to know who you'd have to cut, Brian, to do so. I think I'm fine with just rostering the one tight end. Like if Ingram eventually doesn't work out or something like that, you can figure it out. But I think you're going to give Ingram a long leash, to get a few good games in him before we make a decision on him. So, but if Gerald Everett's on the waiver wire, I'm sure there's a couple other good tight ends where I wouldn't be needing to roster a tight end. I really would need to know who you'd have to cut. Sports Dog says I'm going with RB's Ramondre Stevenson and Aaron Jones. Tight end is Kincaid. I could go with Musgrave. I knew he is Green Bay's primary tight end. Knox or Vulture of Kincaid's work. What do you think? Sport Dog, I think in the the worst case scenario for the Packers is no Watson and no Dobbs. If both of those guys are out, like you almost have to go with Musgrave. He's going to be their number 1 or number 2 target in that offense. And if say one of them is out, then it makes it kind of even to me between Kincaid and Musgrave. I'm totally fine with going with Musgrave though, because you just think about the Jets, man. They have really good corners. We're gonna find out what they can do with their linebackers in coverage here. So I think Kincaid's probably the guy. But if one of Watson or Dobbs is out, we should reevaluate this. So we're gonna hold on this one. I'm gonna lean Kincaid for now, but I do think Musgrave, man, he's gonna be getting some steam. I think he's gonna be one of everyone's favorite waiver wire pickups next week. Deontay or Gibson? I'm going Gibson. You got to take advantage of the matchup. I do love Deontay Johnson. If it's full PPR though, like Johnson's going to get 5 or 6 catches. Gibson's going to maybe get 3 or 4. So if it's full PPR, Justin, I'm gonna lean with Deontay. I'm not overly concerned about the 49ers defense. It is a good defense. Bosa is back, but they're going to be throwing the ball. Deontay gets open. I wouldn't think too much about it. Deontay is going to be 10 to 12 points. Gibson's a good matchup, but I still think Deontay, man, maybe he gets that touchdown that he was owed last year. What do you think about Gibbs of RB2 with news of lower usage? I wouldn't take too much note of that. I think if it's a full PPR league, he's still a running back too. Dude's going to touch the ball 12 to 15 times tomorrow night, whether that's 8 carries and 3 catches, something, he's going to get the ball. He's going to see the ball double-digit time. So leave him in there as your RB2. Both running backs are going to be used heavily. So I wouldn't worry, put too much into that report. Let's get to the Buccaneers and the Vikings, though. Vikings favored by 6, 45.5 total implied in this one. Kirk Cousins is a fringe QB1. He does look better as a super flex QB. I think if you drafted Madison, he's probably in your lineup as your RB2 flex. You're starting JJ, you're starting Hawkinson. And then the questions I probably would get later in the week is going to be Addison. I do think in a full PPR league, that's where I want to play Addison as a wide receiver 3 flex. Let me know if you guys have questions on him. I think he's going to be a good play. I'm open to the Vikings defense, but their defense isn't that good. And then I do want to note Kate Osborne might get more snaps and opportunity than Addison, but we'll see. And then I do think Ty Chandler needs to be owned in pretty much every 12-man league. Like Ty Chandler's on your waiver wire, he shouldn't be. On the Buccaneers side, I'm really scared to see what this offense looks like with Baker Mayfield, but you're starting Rachaad White as an RB2 flex in full PPR. And then I think if you drafted Godwin, you're playing him. And then Evans is more of like the wide receiver 3 flex. I think Baker's game meshes better with Godwin. We'll see about Evans, but if you add Evans, you're probably playing him. Probably not the Bucs defense. Keep an eye on Cade Otton. Like if you need a tight end this week, Cade Otton's not a bad replacement for a Kelsey, Baker Mayfield, Trey Palmer. We're going to watch for him as well, the rookie wide receiver. And then the undrafted rookie running back, Sean Tucker, is listed as the number 2 on the depth chart. So we'll watch for these guys. Basically, these teams where I'm not really excited about, I want to watch and learn from them. Like you're going to start Rashad, Chris, and Mike, but let's learn and see what this offense looks like before we start making some crazy starts and sits. We'll get to the Titans Saints in a second here. Christian, what's going on, man? Start 2. Lockett, Christian Kirk, McLaurin. If McLaurin plays, I'm willing to play him. I think you got to probably play Lockett and Terry McLaurin. I would rank them as Lockett, McLaurin, Christian Kirk. And it did look like Terry was back at practice today. If you were nervous about Terry with the toe, you could I would do Lockett and Christian Kirk and fine with that. The good news is you have 3 really good options. So if you're nervous about McLaurin, I'm fine with Lockett and Kirk. RB, the team, 10-man, half PPR, Hurts, CMC, Gibbs, Wilson, Cooper, Rachaad White, Pitts. Bench is Elijah Mitchell, Tank Bigsby, Charbonnet, Sutton, Pickens, Hollywood Brown, Sky Moore. Thanks in advance. RB, the team. I'm not sure what the question is here, my man. I think you have I think you're asking if you should flex Rachaad White. In this case, I'm only looking at Cortland Sutton, but I think you lean with the volume in a half PPR. Oh, rate the RBs. This is a good team, man. I mean, you're set with Hurts, obviously. CMC and Gibbs holding down the running back spot. You got Garrett Wilson and Cooper, 2 stud wide receivers. And then your flex competition is really good. You got Rachaad. I view your best flexes as Rachaad White, Sutton, Pickens, and Sky Moore. And then we're going to see about Hollywood Brown, Charbonnet, Tank, and Elijah Mitchell. So you have depth for now with the flex, and then you have some guys in the rookie running backs for later. So I think it's a pretty good team. If I had to rate it out of 5 stars, we'll go with a 4.4. Start 2. Dotson, Watson of healthy. Addison, Dotson and Watson. Yes. And yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate it, Ron. But let's go over this Titans and New Orleans Saints matchup here. The Saints are picked to win by 3, over under of 41 total points. The must starts in this game are Chris Olave, and if you have Jamal Williams, you got to try and find a way to get him in your lineup this week, because I don't think Kendre Miller is going to play. So we're looking at maybe 20 touches for Kendre Miller or for Jamal Williams in this one. I think these are the two guys that I feel comfortable with the Saints. I think Derek Carr is a nice QB2 in super flex leagues. I'm not going to start him in a 1 QB league. If you need a tight end and you got Travis Kelce out, like Juwan Johnson's a fine tight end sleeper. And then Michael Thomas is a guy that I'm fine with as a wide receiver 3 flex, but I want to kind of see what it looks like first. If you can find another guy to play, I might prefer Sky Moore tomorrow night versus Michael Thomas. So let me know if you have Michael Thomas questions. Start the Saints defense. It's at home. Titans offense doesn't really excite us. And then, yeah, I don't think Kendry's playing. We'll see about Rashid Shaheed and Taysom Hill. On the Titans side of the ball, Tannehill's barely useful as a QB2 in Superflex leagues. I think you're starting Derrick Henry. If you drafted DeAndre Hopkins, you got to get him in the lineup. And then the real questions come with Chigo Okonkwo and Treylon Burks. I'm actually excited about Treylon Burks. I saw he practiced in full today, so I don't hate him as like a wide receiver 3 dart play. Like if you had Christian Watson and Treylon Burks, and I might choose Treylon Burks just because he's healthy now. And then Chigo Okonkwo is more of a tight end too, but I could see him having a nice game here. Maybe the Titans defense, but I'm not super excited about it. And then Tajay Spears, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine will watch these guys on the bench. Let me see what we got for questions here. No problem, Inceptivus. Titans is a bad matchup for Jamal. It's not the worst matchup. I'm trying to see if I have my fantasy points allowed numbers here. I'm trying to see if I have that from last year pulled up. I believe the Titans were like a decent run defense last year. I don't know how sticky that number is year to year. Let's click into my fantasy points allowed. Where is it? Fantasy points allowed. And then I'm going to change that to 2022. 1 second here. Let's see what the Titans, we're trying to see what the Titans did last year in terms of points per game. And they allowed the second most fantasy points per game last year, but you can see they were pretty red on defense towards the running back. They only allowed 18 points per game to the running backs. But, Daniel, if they allow 18.55 points per game to the running back, and Jamal Williams is the only running back really on the roster, like that's probably a good play. I think volume will get him there. But yeah, the Titans were the 4th best team defending the running back last year. I'm still going to play Jamal Williams. I think he's still a volume play. Camden, thanks for hanging out. Would you flex Breece Hall or Jordan Addison? Who would you use as tight end between Musgrave and Laporta and full PPR? No problem, Camden. Thanks for hanging out. The tight end one is easier for me. I'm going to go with Musgrave over Laporta. We've seen there's just so much buzz about Musgrave, and now that we have the hamstring things for the Packer guys, like I want to lean into Luke Musgrave. Now with Breece Hall and Jordan Addison, I kind of wanted the way that I told people to draft Breece Hall is to draft him, but don't use him for the first week. Let's evaluate what he looks like. Let's evaluate how many snaps and how many touches he gets. Because we just don't know. Like, there's a legit chance that Dalvin Cook gets 40%, Breece Hall gets 40%, and then Michael Carter gets 20% here. It is a good defense in Buffalo too. So, like, I think with Breece Hall, like, you're banking on a touchdown, whereas Addison, if Addison goes 4 for 50 and you get 9 points, like, that seems pretty reasonable. I think the Vikings are pretty excited about Jordan Addison. So, week 1, I'm probably going to play Addison. I just feel safer about him getting, a floor of 8 to 10 points. We just don't know with Breece. We don't know how much he's going to play. So I'll go with Jordan Addison and Luke Musgrave. Yeah, they are good defending the middle of the runs, but again, like I said, if Kendry doesn't play, Jamal Williams is really the only running back they have on roster, and he should get a handful of touches. And if they get close, he might punch one in. I have Jefferson and Addison, putting them both in 4th last year in passing. What do you think? Full PPR. I'd be curious, Charlene, who else you're starting Addison over, but I don't hate it. The Vikings are going to be able to pass the ball on the Buccaneers. I feel pretty strongly about it. So, obviously Jefferson's a smash. I'd be curious to know who else you're starting over Addison. I'm benching Dotson for Jamal. Let's see. That one's a little bit more interesting, Daniel. If it's full PPR, I might lean. I understand what you're saying. Like, the Titans do have a decent run defense. if it's full PPR, I wouldn't feel bad playing Dotson because we know Terry McLaurin's not 100%. So I get it, but either way though, like those are both good plays, so I wouldn't sweat it too much. Higbee or Njoku full PPR? Kyle with a great question. I mean, Tyler Higbee's probably going to be like 8 targets. Like I think I'm going to lean with Higbee. Like the chances of Njoku catching a touchdown are pretty good, but the chances for Higbee to lead his team in targets is also pretty good. So I'm going to lean with Higbee here. He might be like a top 5 tight end while Cooper Kupp is out. So I'm going to lean into Higbee. But Kyle, like they're both, and we're talking 2 top 10 tight ends. It's going to come down to who catches the touchdown. And thank you, Camden. I appreciate it. Watson or Geno Smith? Watson or Geno Smith? So with Geno, you're going to get the Rams defense, which is pretty bad. I like Watson, but again, I kind of want to see what I'm going to play before I play it. So I feel more confident. I think with Geno, I think they're at home against the Rams defense because honestly, if anyone in the chat can like name another Rams defensive player besides Aaron Donald, like it's pretty bad over there. So I think I'm going to go with Geno Smith. 0.5 PPR. Screw it, Daniel. Let's go with Dotson. If you're vibing one certain way, like I truly believe in like trusting your gut. And Dotson's hot, man. Like Dotson had a great preseason. And yeah, I love Keenan Allen as well, Charlene. But let's cover the 49ers and the Steelers here. This game's a low-scoring game. The 49ers are favored by 2.5, 40.5 total scored in this game. I think Bosa's going to play after signing that mega deal, so I'll have to check the line and make sure nothing moved on that. But Brock Purdy, I think he's a QB2 in Superflex League. Not excited about him in this matchup because the Steelers, pretty good defense. You're starting McCaffrey, obviously. I think you're starting Debo. Brandon Ayuk becomes more of a wide receiver 3 flex play. Let me know if you have questions on Brandon Ayuk. And then Kittle, I noted a question mark there because I saw he was potentially limited, but it looks like he's going to try and play this week. He's got what's called an adductor strain, so we shall see. But overall, I think if you have Kittle, you're probably going to play him. I'm fine with starting that 49ers defense. Like based on these projections, they have the Steelers scoring about 17 to 18 points. So that's not a bad game. Hopefully they can get, a handful of sacks for you and maybe a turnover or 2. And then we're just not starting Juwan Jennings, Elijah Mitchell. I noted the backup tight end here. And then also just in case anything happens, I want to note Jordan Mason's the 3rd running back in San Francisco. So we'll watch for him in case he gets any opportunity. On the Steelers side, I mean, I think Kenny Pickett's a QB2 for Superflex, but it's a bad matchup against the 49ers. So, like, if you have questions on Pickett, let me know in Superflex. If you drafted Najee, you're playing Najee. I think you're going to want to try and get Deontay Johnson in your lineups, even though it is a bad matchup. Let me go back to fantasy points allowed. I'm going to try and pull that up again because I think that was useful. And I don't like going off of last year's numbers, but it's literally all we have to go off of at the moment right now. So we'll pull this up. 2022 fantasy points allowed. I believe the Steelers, San Fran was 5th, but the Steelers did allow wide receiver points and tight end points, whereas the 49ers, like they only allowed wide receiver points. Like they're red against everything else but receiver. So it's not a terrible matchup for Deontay and George Pickens. If you want to get these guys in your lineups, I think you should go ahead and do it. If anything, I mean, I think the 49ers are going to stuff Najee Harris and make them throw the ball. So that's probably what we're looking at. Go ahead and start Pat Freiermuth. I put flex next to Jaylen Warren here, but I don't think we're going to start him this week. I'll probably move him to bench. We want to see what this backfield split looks like. I want to see the snaps and the touches and how everything shakes out. I do believe Warren's going to be the passing down back, though, so we'll watch for that. I'm open to starting the Steelers defense, and then let's just keep an eye on Allen Robinson and Calvin Austin. I think both those guys could make some plays in this one. We'll move on to the Commanders and the Cardinals. Let's just see what we got here for questions. Shout out Andrew. He's asking start Bryce Young in Superflex. I mean, it depends on who you're starting him over. I know Andrew is starting Bryce Young over Matthew Stafford, so that's a tough one. I think I would probably lean Matthew Stafford still, just because he's a trusted veteran. We don't know what Bryce Young's going to look like, but at that point, it's probably best left to a gut call. Charlene says, "Love Calvin Austin with the 4.1 speed. I will monitor him and not drafting him." Yeah, we can't start him or draft him or anything yet, but I am watching. Like Allen Robinson is the wide receiver 3 on paper right now. We'll see if Calvin Austin can kind of start to steal some of that role from him, because I do think there's going to be some plays in the schedule there for Calvin Austin, and he's a big play guy. He also can return punts, I believe. So I like Calvin as well. Commanders and the Cardinals. This is going to be probably the most boring game to watch. I'm excited about Sam Howell, though. I think if you have Sam Howell in a Superflex league, go ahead and start him. And then it's Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson. I feel really good about both these guys. Like, I actually rated Brian Robinson as a top 12 back. I have Gibson as a running back too. Try and find a way to get them in your lineup. The Cardinals offense is not good. The Cardinals defense is just not good either. Commanders should be able to take care of the football, run the ball, and they're going to be running all second half. I do have Jahan Dotson listed as a wide receiver 3. I have a question next to Terry McLaurin. He practiced today, though. I think he's going to play. So if you want to get McLaurin out there, I'm fine with it. Curtis Samuels is more of a deep flex. Everybody knows the smash start defense of the week is the Commanders. And then we're going to monitor the backup tight end situation. And then just the fourth receiver there is Dyami Brown. On the Cardinals, like I tried not to get you guys to draft any Cardinals this year, but if you had to, like James Conner is your running back too, I get it. Marquise Brown, I don't think he practiced today. Did he get a limited day in? Wednesday. Marquise Brown got a limited day in, so we're going to watch that. He's got a hamstring note next to his name. I'm not super in love with it. I kind of want to see what it looks like. I think I'm cool. I think I'm fine with leaving Marquise Brown on the bench, say no to drugs with the Cardinals defense, and then Dobbs too. Like, this is all junk, guys. Like, I want to see Trey McBride. Like, we'll watch for Trey McBride. We'll watch for Michael Wilson, Dobbs versus 2. Like, it's going to be a long year for Cardinals fans, so I'm sorry in advance, guys. But let's move on to another ugly matchup here. The Texans at the Ravens. Baltimore's favored to win by 10 points. Total of 44 in this one is implied. The Ravens is simple. I think you're starting Lamar, you're starting J.K. Dobbins, and you're starting Mark Andrews. I think the question is the wide receiver room. It's Zay Flowers, Bateman, Odell Beckham. The only one I'm comfortable whipping out there as a wide receiver 3 flex is going to be Zay Flowers. I think he's the guy that's on the field the most, and he'll get the most targets of the other 2. We also just want to see what this offense looks like. So keep it simple with these guys. You drafted Bateman and Beckham. Leave them on your bench. Let's explore and see what this looks like. I'm even fine with leaving Zay Flowers on the bench to just basically get a feel for what this offense can be. You're starting the Ravens defense. I think outside of the Commanders, the Ravens are the second best defense to play this week. Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Aguilar, and Isaiah Likely will watch these guys on the bench. On the Texans side, it's an ugly matchup, but I still think if you drafted Dameon Pierce, you're starting him as a running back too, based on volume alone. If you need a tight end for Travis Kelce, I suppose Dalton Schultz. And then a desperation wide receiver 3 flex play could be Nico Collins. But I want to advise caution with the Texans. If I'm being honest, I probably only want to use Dameon Pierce. CJ Stroud, his first game at Baltimore, 10-point dogs. Like, it just doesn't sound good. They also have 2 or 3 of their starting offensive linemen down. So I'm really high on Dameon Pierce, but this might be an ugly start for the Texans out of the gate here. So we'll monitor everybody. I'm hoping CJ Stroud can ball out, but it's probably going to be a pretty ugly game. Something like, I don't know, like it could be like 35-13 kind of game, something like that. Those are all the early games on Sunday. Let's cover the Sunday late games. I'm going to have to update some question marks here, but the Packers at the Bears. Bears picked to win by 1, 43 total implied in this one. The Bears, we're going to keep it simple. You're starting Justin Fields. You're starting DJ Moore. You drafted these guys high. Keep them in your lineup. Khalil Herbert's the question. If you can get him in as your running back too, like I think that's fine. You can get him in as your flex. I think that's fine as well. The Packers defense was the 7th best team in fantasy points allowed last year, but they did allow a handful of running back points. So it's not a bad spot for Khalil Herbert. I'm open to starting the Bears defense, but probably not. Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, Rashawn Johnson, Chase Claypool, leave these guys on the bench. There's just not enough volume around for Justin Fields to have, I think, more than one receiver. So let's wait and see what this Bears offense looks like first. Keep an eye on Rashawn Johnson on third downs. On the Packers side, like I'm excited about Jordan Love in this offense. We'll see what it looks like. Super flex leagues, I like Jordan Love as a QB2. You're starting Aaron Jones. Obviously, the news today with Christian Watson's hamstring and Romeo Dobbs' hamstring, we're going to have to monitor that Thursday and Friday. If Watson can get a limited practice in tomorrow, if Dobbs can get one in tomorrow too, they're probably going to play. If they're not practicing by Friday, they're not going to play. So let's monitor those situations. It's hard to give an evaluation for this, but if Watson is able to practice, I'll probably get him in my lineup. Otherwise, this is all just pointing to Luke Musgrave and Jaden Reed as being sleepers for week 1, especially on your DraftKings lineups. I think those might be the top 2 receiving options in this game, but we'll see. So I'm pretty nervous. I think I'm not afraid to start the Packers defense. Like, even though Justin Fields is a really good fantasy player, I don't expect the Bears to put up, more than 20 points in this one. So I'm open to the Packers defense. A.J. Dillon, Samori Toure. We'll keep these guys on the bench here. So it's unfortunate, but we're kind of pending information here on the Packers side. So hopefully Watson and Dobbs can go, but we need more practice report information. Raiders at the Broncos. Broncos picked to win by 4. You got 44.5 implied on this one. On the Broncos side, like, this whole offense makes me nervous, man. It's a great matchup because the Raiders defense is just simply not good. But it's hard to recommend to start these guys. I think Russell Wilson's a quarterback 2 in Superflex leagues only. If I'm starting a Broncos running back, it's probably Samaje Perine. I think he's going to be the guy that gets the bulk of the carries and snaps this week. I think Courtland Sutton can be your wide receiver 3 flex. If you're in a pinch and you have Kelsey and you want to start Greg Dulcich, I think that's fine as well. And then with Javonte Williams, like all summer long, I told you guys, like if you want to draft Javonte Williams, let's leave him on our bench week 1, see how this split goes. He is listed as running back 1 on the depth chart, but we really can't trust depth charts. We need to trust what we see on the field. So week 1, I don't want Javonte in my lineup. I also don't know if Jerry Jeudy's going to play. He got a limited practice in today, which is great news. But Marvin Mims is definitely in the flex consideration. I think if you have Jerry Jeudy, I'm not playing him week 1. I want to see, how many snaps and how he looks before he gets into my lineup. So I think it's the same thing with Marvin Mims. Probably not starting Marvin Mims, but if Jeudy's out, he's worth the flex desperation play. Go ahead and start the Broncos defense and then monitor Jaleel McLaughlin. He is the 3rd running back there. And I think they're going to use him. I think they're going to use him as a change of pace guy. Maybe he gets like 15, 20% of the snaps, something like that. And then the last receiver here I'm going to note is Brandon Johnson. He's their 4th receiver on the depth chart. On the Raiders side, you're starting Jacobs, Devontae Adams, like end of list for the Raiders. Like get these guys in your lineups. It's fine. Jimmy Garoppolo, Superflex League, sure. Jacoby Myers is a deep wide receiver 3 flex play if you need one. I'm not super excited about it. Say no to the Raiders defense, and then let's watch Zamir White, see if he gets some touches. Let's see what Hunter Renfrow does in the slot. Let's see how the tight end room shakes out. Otherwise, like it's Jacobs and Adams. Don't do anything too crazy with your Raiders, guys. Eagles at the Patriots. The Eagles are 4-point favorites, 45 total implied in this one. It's pretty simple. Like obviously, Bill Belichick and his defense, they take the best player away. It's going to be a tough matchup for the Eagles offense, but you're starting Hurts, you're starting A.J. Brown, you're starting Devonta Smith, and you're starting Dallas Goedert. I think the only question on the Eagles side is, do I start DeAndre Swift? I think in a full PPR league, I'm open to him as a wide receiver or a flex play. He's probably not a running back 2, but he could be flexed, and go ahead and start that Eagles defense. And then if it were up to me, I wouldn't start an Eagles back this week. I want to see how the backfield shakes out with the snaps and the touches. So for me, I'm evaluating that this first game here. Let's see what it looks like, and then we can make better decisions going forward. So Gainwell, Penny, Swift, I think should be on your bench, and then Quez Watkins is the 3rd receiver there. On the Patriots side, the only startable player in most formats is Ramondre Stevenson. Like if you drafted Ramondre, you're starting him. Mac Jones is maybe a QB2 in Superflex, maybe. If you need a tight end and Hunter Henry's out there and you have Kelsey, like sure, Hunter Henry could catch a touchdown. I'm going to move Juju Smith-Schuster to the bench. I do not want anything to do with Juju Smith-Schuster this year. Didn't draft him on any of my teams. That knee is really concerning, and I wouldn't be surprised if Devontae Parker is the wide receiver 1 this week or Kendrick Bourne. So to me, it's Ramondre, yes. Maybe Hunter Henry if you need a tight end, and otherwise I'm kind of staying away from the Patriots offense. We need to see what it looks like first. Moving on to the Dolphins at the Chargers. Chargers 3-point home favorites, 51 total implied in this one. If you have a Charger, you're starting them. Like Herbert, Eckler, Keenan, Mike, you're starting these guys. The questions probably come from Gerald Everett and Josh Palmer. I don't think you're starting Josh Palmer. You might be starting Everett if you have Kelsey, something like that. So let me know if you guys have questions on these guys. I do think Everett could be, a tight end sleeper this week. And I do think Josh Palmer's the wide receiver 3 week 1. I don't know if they're going to play the rookie over him. Quentin's going to have to earn that spot. Maybe start the Chargers defense, and then I'm going to keep the rookie Quentin Johnson and Josh Kelly on the bench. On the Dolphins side, I think Tua is fine. He's a great super flex QB too. If you have questions on Tua, let me know. He can be a top 10, top 12 QB. There's a lot of points implied in this one. Raheem Mostert, if you have him, he's a running back 2 flex play. Chargers do give up points to the running back. Let me see where they ranked last year. They allowed almost 26 points per game to the running back position. So that's a good spot for Raheem Mostert. you're starting Tyreek, you're starting Waddle, and then that's like the end of the list. So I'm not starting the Dolphins defense. I want to note Durham Smythe, Braxton Berrios, and then we'll see about Devon Achane. I'm going to also add Salvin Ahmed to the bottom of this list here. But start your Chargers, start your Tyreek, start your Waddle, consider Tua. I did see a question come through here. Have Pat's defense good? I don't really want to start him against the Eagles. If there's no one that you can cut, like I'm okay with it. But right now, basically, let me see what they're projecting them to score. Right now, the Eagles are projected to score 24.5 points against the Patriots. So it's probably the worst matchup for the Pats the entire season. Daniel says lots of injuries this preseason, more than I can remember. Yeah, it's a lot of stupid injuries, like all like soft tissue hamstring shit. And it's like, especially what's weird though is like the running backs are healthy. The running backs just have contract issues this year, and it seems like all the receivers are getting hit with something right now. So it's frustrating. Keenan Allen, Ridley, or Lockett. I'm going with Calvin Ridley here. He's in a smash spot against the Colts. Give me Calvin Ridley. I would rank them Ridley, Keenan, Lockett. Yep, Ridley, Keenan, Lockett. Mike W. could be the receiver if healthy. Dude, I love Mike Williams. I don't know if he could be the wide receiver 1, but I think if he puts it together, like he could be top 10, top 12. I think there's room for Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to absolutely smash this year. If Keenan Allen stays healthy and Mike Williams stays healthy, like Herbert's throwing for 5,000 yards, Mike Will could be like a 1,200-yard receiver and double-digit touchdown guy. So I love Mike Williams on this show here. Everett or Higbee, also Laporta or Meyer, PPR. Everett versus Higbee, I think in almost any question that I get and Higbee's in it, I'm going to go with Higbee. You have to take advantage of Cooper Kupp not being in the lineup. So I'm going to say Higbee comes out and gets like 8 targets. He maybe catches 6 or 7 balls this weekend. Laporta or Mayer, I think I'm going to lean with Laporta. But to be honest, both guys are like they shouldn't be started. If you have another tight end, I'd be more curious about those guys. But Meyer didn't really have a great preseason. He blocked a lot. He also has Austin Hooper to deal with. I feel more confident in the Lions to put up points. Maybe Laporta catches a touchdown. So I'll go Higbee and Laporta, Ron. Josiah, thanks for hanging out. Should have Kelsey out, Higbee or Njoku? Yeah, that's been a popular question tonight. I'm going to go with Higbee because I think the targets are going to be there. Also, looking at last year's numbers here, the Seahawks did allow a decent amount of points to the tight end last year. So it is a good matchup for Higbee, like on paper. Last year, the Seahawks allowed the 5th most points to the tight end position, about 14 PPR points per game. So it's a really good spot for Tyler Higbee if you guys need it. So I'm going with Higbee if Kelsey is out, no doubt, Higbee. Where were we? Dolphins, Chargers. Let's get this Rams Seahawks game in. We just covered it. On the Seahawks side, they're 5.5-point favorites, 46.5 total implied in this one. I need to double check my line to make sure that's the same with Cooper Kupp not playing. I think Geno Smith's a top 10 play this week. Get him in your lineups. He's a great QB2 and Superflex as well. You're starting Kenneth Walker, starting DK Metcalf, you're starting Tyler Lockett. The question probably comes with JSN. I think I'm going to prefer to leave him on the bench this week. We want to see how much he's involved in this offense. And again, he's coming back from a wrist injury. We just don't know the snaps. We don't know what his target share is going to look like. So I'm going to lean towards benching JSN. Seahawks defense is startable with no Cooper Kupp, Noah Fant, Zach Charbonnet. Leave him on the bench. I want to see what Charbonnet looks like before we consider him. On the Rams side, I think Stafford's a fringe QB2 for Superflex leagues. You're starting Cam Akers. Like that's the one that makes sense to me on the on the Rams. Let me go back up to here. Last year, the Seahawks were the 4th worst team against the running back. They allowed a ton of running back points. They allowed a ton of catches to the running backs as well. So it looks good for Akers. Get him in your lineup if you got him. Tyler Higbee, man, he's the guy that I want as a tight end replacement for Kelsey. And then if you're desperate and needed someone deep, Van Jefferson could be the guy for you. I think he's going to lead the team. He's going to be up there with targets with Higbee, okay? I don't know if I want to start Van Jefferson, but I understand if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. Not starting the Rams defense. And then we're going to keep an eye on Kieran Williams, Tutu Atwell, and Puka Nacua. I think all these guys could have roles at some point this season. They're on the top of my waiver wire queue. Basically, like if one of these guys pops off, we might be grabbing him next week on the waiver wire. So monitor Kieran Williams, the running back 2 for Cam Akers. Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua are going to be wide receivers 2 and 3 this weekend. If I had to grab one to stash over the weekend, it would be Puka. Sunday Night Football. Charlene says, I have Matt Gay as my kicker. Your thoughts? And he's the Rams kicker, right? He's the Rams kicker. I probably don't want the Rams kicker this year. Is he their kicker? Who's the Rams kicker? Matt Gay's on the Colts. I don't mind Matt Gay. I think he's fine. I think the Colts are going to move the ball. They're playing in a dome. They're going to move the ball. They're going to be just fine. Unless you can tell me like who the other like kickers are available, but I think I'm fine with attaching myself to the Colts there. Sunday Night Football though, Cowboys at the Giants. Cowboys 3.5 road favorites, 46.5 total implied in this one. I think it's pretty simple for the Cowboys. Like if you drafted Dak Prescott, you're probably using him as your QB1. He looks great as a QB2 in Superflex leagues. You're starting Tony Pollard. You're starting CeeDee Lamb. The questions are going to come with Brandon Cook. So I think can be a wide receiver 3 flex. Let me know if you have questions there. He's a guy that probably could go 5 for 72, something like that. He's got a good chance at a touchdown as well. The ultimate sleeper at tight end that I've been popping up all summer long is Jake Ferguson. I think he's going to be an exciting player that we're going to be talking about on the waiver wire for the next week or two. So monitor Jake Ferguson. I don't hate him as a Kelsey replacement in this game. I believe the Giants are pretty bad against the tight end from last year. They're one of the bottom teams. They allowed 12.72 points per game to the tight end last year. So not a bad spot for Ferguson. Start the Cowboys defense. I think that's a team that you can just kind of set and forget. It doesn't matter who they play. Maybe you don't play them against the Eagles. That's about it. And then we're going to monitor Michael Gallup, Rico Dowdle, and then I should have added Deuce Vaughn here on the bottom. I'm curious what the RB2 duties look like behind Tony Pollard. We're probably going to be talking about Rico Dowdle next week on the waiver wire. I think the Giants side of the ball is really simple. I have Daniel Jones listed as a Superflex QB2. He can be your QB1. Let me know if you have questions. You're starting Barkley. You're starting Darren Waller. End of list. I think Darius Slayton and Paris Campbell are more desperation wide receiver 3 flexes. I'm excited about them. I'm excited about what Daniel Jones and this passing offense can be this year, but maybe just monitor Slayton and Campbell on Sunday Night Football and see if we want to maybe add these guys to the bottom of our rosters. Probably not starting the Giants defense. And then let's keep an eye on Breida. Jalen Hyatt's a guy that we might be talking about on the waiver wire. And then Isaiah Hodgins, we'll monitor him as well. And last but not least, we have Monday Night Football. The Bills at the Jets. Bills 2.5 road favorites, 46.5 implied. I think the Bills are pretty simple as well. You're starting Josh Allen. I think James Cook in a PPR league is your running back 2. Stephon Diggs, yes. Dalton Kincaid can be a streamable tight end 1 this week. And then I'm a little bit torn on Gabe Davis. I kind of want to lean towards not getting him in here. It's a tough matchup. The Jets defense is pretty elite. They got good corners. Not super excited about it. Start the Bills defense. I think the offense for the Jets might come out a little bit stale. And we're going to monitor Deontay Hardy, who's the wide receiver 3 in Buffalo. And then I want to watch the running back 2 behind James Cook. Is it Murray? Is it Damian Harris, who comes in on the goal line? Stuff like that. And then we'll keep an eye on the tight end Dalton Knox to see what the workload is for Knox and for Kincaid. On the Jet side, I think Rodgers is only a QB2 in a Superflex league. I don't want him out there in 1 QB leagues as my guy. You're starting Garrett Wilson. Like Garrett Wilson's like the only New York Jet that I'm comfortable starting this week. Conklin maybe is a tight end streamer for Kelsey replacement. I think Lazard. I want to see what it looks like first, honestly. I don't really want to start Breece Hall or Dalvin Cook. Both guys aren't really 100% right now. We want to see what the split looks like. I'm open to starting the Jets defense. Josh Allen does have turnovers every now and then that could lead to a Sauce Gardner touchdown or something. And then let's monitor Mecole Hardman, Randall Cobb, and Michael Carter. And there, we did it. Week 1 start sits are complete. I will open it up now. Rapid fire questions, whatever you guys got. And good luck to your teams too. I hope this is the year that we all win championships. And that's one of the things that I like the most about doing this is like at the end of the year, like I get to help people win championships by making some calls. So sometimes I make the wrong call. Usually I try to give you guys the best analytical and like gut feeling instinct that I can do, I look a lot at I love looking at the snap counts and the targets and the touches. So I basically try to play you. I try to make the best play by looking at that data and playing the matchup. So very, very excited for the season. As a Cowboys fan, I would say that I will always be good at. Yeah, there was that one game where like Blake Jarwin went off against them. Dalton Schultz seems to do pretty good about them. I think this could be a really sneaky Jake Ferguson breakout game. So he's one of my favorite players this season. I have him on pretty much all my benches. Very, very excited about Jake Ferguson. Dave Severe, are you open to last minute ESPN Fantasy Football League draft? I'm gonna pass. I appreciate the offer though. I have so many leagues and I just don't want to I don't want to add more to my plate. I've got a handful of money leagues. I'm in a couple other ones. And with my YouTube schedule and stuff, I want to kind of keep my plate clean, but I appreciate it. If anyone else wants to do it, though, you could post it in the comments and maybe you'll get someone to join you. But otherwise, Miles Sanders or Javonte Williams, says Rave. I'm going Miles Sanders. Again, I need to see what Javonte Pirine split looks like. The Broncos beat that I follow, he actually mentioned that it might be 3 running backs playing in this game. It might be 40-40-20 split with Samaje, Javonte, and this new guy, Jaleel McLaughlin, who they like as kind of like a Joker style. Like he's like a Darren Sproles type back. He's very, very, very shifty and fast. So I'm going to lean with Miles Sanders there. I think it's a good matchup. The Atlanta Falcons defense isn't exactly scary, and with a rookie quarterback, like they're going to give him the ball. The Falcons were middle of the road last year on defense against the running back. They did allow 22 points per game. So if Sanders can hit even 50% of that, that's 11 points. So I think Sanders is probably the guy that I want in that matchup. And then I just want to show you guys, if you guys ever want to look at the fantasyfellowship.com, I do upload all the start sit charts that we just went over. I'm going to get rid of this playbook on the homepage, but you can click into week 1. That's where I have everything here. The waiver wire report, I'm going to start putting that out on Monday of next week. I like looking at the DraftKings games lines. If you guys are new to my content, like I use this almost religiously. Like this basically tells me everything that I need to know about the week. Like Kansas City Chiefs are projected to score the most points this week at 30.5. The Arizona Cardinals down here projected to score 15.5. So the teams that are not projected to score a lot of points, you want to start these defenses. So Washington, Baltimore, maybe Atlanta, New Orleans, San Francisco, those are probably your top 5 defense plays just based on the analytics. And I take all this from DraftKings and get that organized for you guys. So lean into some of these charts. Definitely look at some of those. What do you think Michael Thomas' ceiling can be in fantasy if he stays healthy? I mean, when Thomas was healthy last year for those, I think the 3 games, like he outplayed Chris Olave. So like his legit ceiling is like a really, really good wide receiver too. I think he could be, if everything broke right for Thomas, he's going to, post like wide receiver 15 numbers. Cause I do think Olave is really freaking good. So Thomas won't finish top 10 or anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's, if he played a full 16, 17 games, like he could be between 15 and 20, wide receiver 15 and 20. So he's an exciting bet. And hopefully for where you got him in your draft, he's like on your bench and we get to see what happens with him. No problem, Rave. And guys, we're going to be doing this every Wednesday evening, same time. I'm blocking this Wednesday off for the next 17 weeks. We're doing the Start Sit Live show, 7 p.m. Central Time. We'll start, and I'll try to go live for about an hour for you guys. How do you feel about Swift? I got him as my RB2, Pierce as my RB1. I'm not the biggest Swift fan. I think it's going to be frustrating to own Philly backs this year, but if you had to bet on one Eagles back, it is him. Now, Penny just can't stay healthy. DeAndre Swift has also had trouble playing a full season, so it could be a situation by the end of the year. It's like a last man standing is the guy you want in Philadelphia. But if you have to play one this week, I would feel good about Swift. I just don't know what the roles are going to be. Like, I honestly, I want to see what week 1 looks like. Like, is Swift only in there on third downs? Is he getting 10, 12? If Swift gets 10 to 12 carries, on Sunday, that feels pretty good because we know he's going to get some catches too. So if he does, go over double-digit carries, I'm feeling a lot better about Swift. I want to know who the short yardage goal line back is. I want to know who the third down back is. I want to know who's in there at the end of the first half in 2-minute hurry up mode. Who's in there at the end of the games? Like, we have to learn so much about the Eagles backfield yet. Bestie for week 2, want to anticipate on waivers. Good call, Daniel. That's a good question. Let's go look at it together. And I have not peeked that far ahead yet, but that's a good thing to monitor, because sometimes you have to be adding these guys weeks in advance. Minnesota at Philadelphia, not super excited about those defenses. That should be a good game. Green Bay, Atlanta, not sure. I think Buffalo versus Vegas, you're going to want Buffalo. Baltimore versus Cincinnati. Seattle at Detroit. Chargers at Titans. Maybe the Chargers. Chicago, Tampa Bay, not sure. Kansas City and Jacksonville is a good one. You got Indianapolis and Houston. San Francisco, obviously, like, they're probably owned, but that's going to be a good play against the Rams. It looks like the New York Giants, Daniel. The I would go pretty much like, if you just wanted to tail the Arizona Cardinals this year and start the defense that played the Cardinals, you're probably going to have a good year. So I would say the New York Giants stick out. They're probably not owned this week because they're playing the Cowboys. So Giants versus the Cardinals, that looks good week 2. The New York Jets versus the Cowboys, that's a tough one. You could maybe even start the Washington Commanders next weekend again, because we're all starting them this week against the Cardinals, but they get Denver next week. That shouldn't be too high scoring of a game. Miami at New England. Maybe Miami's defense is startable in this one. New Orleans Saints at Carolina. I want the New Orleans Saints defense. And then I think I'm willing to start the Pittsburgh Steelers at home against Cleveland. So hopefully that's a few ideas for you, my man. Severe says Sutton, Ayuk, or Peoples-Jones, one got to go. It's probably DPJ. DPJ is a guy that could be on the waiver wire. I'm not cutting Sutton. To me, he's the clear wide receiver 1 for Denver out of the gate. And then Ayuk is like, you probably spent a 6th or 7th round draft pick on Ayuk. So DPJ, if you had to cut one, it's probably DPJ. Do you think Jackson Smith-Njigba is worth adding? I have Geno Smith as a backup. Definitely, like, if JSN went undrafted, Sports Dog, like, we got to go get him. Yeah, he should not. JSN should not be sitting out there. Let me read the rest of this question quick. I have Geno Smith as a backup QB, and I have Zach Charbonnet too for the week that Josh Allen is on bye. What week is JA on bye? Oh, dude. So personally, in a 1 QB league, I'm not holding on to a QB2. Basically, you're holding on to a QB2 for 12 weeks here. JSN's more valuable to you than Geno Smith is, because if you're only holding on to Geno Smith for 12 weeks just so you can play in week 13, that's like basically burning a roster spot for about 75% of the season. So I'm probably going to go get Jackson Smith-Njigba. Yeah, it sucks tossing Geno Smith back into the QB pool, but there's going to be other guys. You can't cut Charbonnet. I think you have to grab JSN and let Geno go. So who would you start, Swift or Javonte Williams? I think in your case here, I'm going to lean DeAndre Swift. It's a really good matchup for Javonte Williams. So like they're probably ranked like in the same tier as like a low end RB2 flex play for me. Geez, that's a tough one. The Raiders defense is really bad. The Raiders allowed the 5th most points to running back last year. When we're talking about the Eagles are going up against the New England Patriots. Like, that's a good defense. So in this case, Severe, I think I'm going Javonte Williams. That's a tough one. I do like A-Chain, Rave, but personally, I don't think A-Chain can be a bell cow back. I think Miami is destined to be a committee the entire year. Now, A-Chain in a committee where he gets 12 to 15 touches looks pretty good, though. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the running back to own in Miami by October. Maybe even by November. No problem, Daniel. Thank you for the great question. We got Juice, JM3 Juice. Good evening, my man. What's up, group? Go Birds. We got the Go Birds in the house. Hope you're doing well, Juice. I'm handcuffing Warren, Charbonnet, and Jameson Williams. Is that start? I'm not holding Jameson Williams for 6 games. That's something that I I hate burning a roster spot for that long. I think Alvin Kamara with his 3-game suspension is the most. I also don't know if Jameson Williams is good yet. So like if you had someone on the waiver wire that made sense to grab, I think Jameson Williams would be the first one to go. I'd let somebody else monitor him. Assuming you have 4 or 5 good receivers ahead of Jameson Williams, I don't know if I can carry him for the first 6 games. But yeah, that's a tough one. I would need to know who else you can add here. But we're going on almost an hour live here. I'll take another question or two if you guys got it. But like I said, every Wednesday evening I'm going to be doing this. So if you guys are new to the channel, definitely subscribe. Helps the channel grow. Like the video, all that good stuff. And then I'm unsure. I'm going to be trying to do a live stream tomorrow night where we go over some practice reports and things like that. So join me on Thursday night. I think I'm going to be going live about 6:30 p.m. Central Time, just before the game. But I don't know, guys. This was fun. This was the first Start Sit Live of the year. We'll be doing this every Wednesday. Check out the practice reports tomorrow. That's really the best piece of information that we can go off of right now. And yeah, guys, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the game tomorrow night if I don't see you. And I don't know, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.